Poconos and where we are is one of the reasons camp is here. And why there are lots of other camps around us, because we have this gorgeous lake and the weather we do and the scenery.
Summer in the Poconos and summer camps in the Poconos. Welcome to Pocono Mountains Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Hamill, and this is Season 3, Episode 15. We have no shortage of camps all throughout the Pocono Mountains. There are a few dozen in Wayne County alone. And in Pike County, quite a few of them draw kids from all over the map year after year. And in Camp Oneka's case, that's been a tradition 115 years strong this year. 1908, the camp on the shores of Fairview Lake near Lake Wallenpaupack got its start and has led to third and fourth and fifth generation campers and one very well-known alumna, Grace Kelly. More on Camp Oneka in a bit. The Poconos is a year-round destination for millions. And with 2,400 square miles of mountains, forests, rivers, and lakes with historic downtowns, iconic family resorts, and those aforementioned summer camps, it's a perfect getaway. You can always find out more on PoconoMountains.com or watch PTN, the Pocono Television Network, streaming live 24/7. That's at PoconoTelevision.com. Now back to the episode. Rachel and Johnny have been in the camp business for a long while, and in 2019, they took over Camp Oneka. The couple is now carrying on the traditions that go back more than a century, with some amazing Pocono summers and bonds between the campers, the counselors, staff, and alumni throughout the generations. Watch for this story on the upcoming Pocono Mountains magazine in August. But for now, here's our sit-down with Johnny and Rachel of Camp Oneka. Enjoy. Hey everyone, it's Jim Hamill with Pocono Mountains Podcast here at Camp Oneka, this historic place right on Fairview Lake, which is a stone's throw from Lake Wallenpaupack. And do you hear that bell? That means it's time to switch activities here. So we're going to switch into a conversation with the owners of this place, Johnny and Rachel. Thank you for joining us here on Pocono Mountains Podcast. You guys have Camp Oneka. That's pretty special.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
We really feel like we hit the jackpot.
Lucky us.
Yeah. And I mean, yes, you got in 2019. And
yes.
So then there was like that stumbling block of like, okay, hey, we can't open right away. But now you're building back and it feels good, right?
Yeah.
It feels great. And I think we appreciate it more too. Like that we watched it kind of come back to life, and you really see and feel it with the campers and the parents that what their child is experiencing here is pretty remarkable.
And even in that first year, I think the best part were the folks who welcomed us in. So the alumni base is unbelievable. 115 years of tradition and alumni, and fourth and fifth even generation campers. So the people that we met that first year, even in a year we weren't open, we had some visitors, we had folks come up, and I think it was the most welcoming group we've ever had. Just to invite us into what is their special place with open arms was one of the best parts. So it was a slow start, but great people.
And that is something like you don't find necessarily everywhere, right? Are the steeped in traditions kind of things with that alumni network. I mean, going back to even the times of Grace Kelly, right here on this stage. So that like those kinds of things are intrinsic with what the camp is all about, right? Is like those traditions for generations.
Mm-hmm. And some of the activities that have been, the things that we're teaching on this lake, the pictures of this lake 100 years ago look a lot different in terms of just some of the scenery around, but the same things, the noise you hear on the lake, the kids cheering and clapping and sailing and having such a wonderful time is ages old. And you're right, the traditions, it's one of the campfires we talk about the people who came before us, and we recognize the Oneka sisters and the alumni, and they talk about coming in horse and carriage and by train, and they're still bringing trunks. It's the classic old school trunks that come to camp. And again, some of those belong to moms and grandmas and everyone else who came, and aunts and cousins. But yes, all of that, but the tradition handed down, but the love for camp is definitely one of the best parts they hand down.
So you have 120 or so, you could fit more, but at the same time, you've got to really be appreciative of those relationships and bonds that they've formed, that they carry on out into life, and the lessons that they learn here too, right? It's kind of like you're not just going to come in and experience, camp. You're going to learn, you're going to grow as individuals. So.
Go ahead.
That's what's pretty special, that they they have these friendships that they're working on, but they're learning these skills that they'll come back as alumni in 50 years and know how to sail a sailboat because they learned here. And like as soon as they walk onto property, they smell the smells and they're like, this is where I learned so many great things as a child. And it really, like we've met a lot of people in our life, but the kindest people I feel like are the ones that we've met here at Camp Oneka.
Wow. I mean, Whitney's great too. I mean, just like emblematic of all the young girls who are like growing into women and kind of like taking on the world, but still being grounded in what she's experienced here, right? Like that's, I'm sure, what you've learned in your time kind of being stewards of this place.
And being a smaller camp too, every camper will know every camper. They'll know every staff member. And there's something really special about a 7-year-old knowing our 16-year-olds and that they're maybe going to be in a canoe race together. And so it's really special. Like, I don't feel like you see that a lot in the world where you're combining age groups, and our kids and staff come from all over the world. So it's so special to like really see these relationships where you wouldn't have these relationships outside of camp.
Yeah. The full-time attention and care you get from the counselors. Same kind of thing, a 7 and 16-year-old making connections. It doesn't always happen, in school, in high school, wherever else it might be, but then those college age and high school age and 20-some-year-old counselors coming in that you don't always get full-time attention and care, and someone that really cares about you every day. And you're right, 120 kids, everyone knows everybody. And that's one of the best parts. Camp, and one of the things that when we bought camp, took camp over, we said we want to carry on some of these same things. And so the idea of a small camp is part of what it's been since the beginning. That really it is. Everyone, we will know every camper. Every counselor will know every camper. And you really get the shared experiences through that, the sailing, everything else. It all, when you add it up, yes, we don't want to gloss over the activities because they're wonderful. But they all lead to the kind of connections you make. And that might be the shared experience. You remember that day out on the sailboat when they're sailing with what became your best friend in the Saturday sail race, or climbing the climbing wall, or canoeing is a huge one for us. A lot of stuff on the water, but outdoors. But really, all of these things, the deeper meanings are the building confidence and self-esteem that come through accomplishing these things. So we may work hard to make sure the activities have a progression so that the kids are really growing and learning and coming back. Next year, I'm going to earn my gray cap. And next year, I'm going to become a skipper so I can go canoeing down the Delaware River with my friends. So we're kind of jumping around to a lot of things, but it's hard to contain how much excitement there is sometimes. So much happens at camp. But the group that is here, this year will likely be here. We probably have 80%, 90% of the kids return from year after year. So it's not just the 1 year you meet people. Really, you grow up together. And it's an intense month or 2 months that the kids are here together, but you really get to know somebody well when you share a cabin with them and eat meals together. And there's a lot of things we do together that, again, those deeper things like, the confidence that comes of it, and even responsibility that you have to take care of your own things and make decisions, pick some of your activities. There's a lot on your plate, and that's why we have so many counselors to guide them through it, but they make a lot of decisions on their own. You grow a lot.
And you also have made the choice to have them disconnect entirely from technology. And that's, in this day and age, something that's probably important for their personal growth as well, right? Yeah.
I mean, there's so many great things about disconnecting, because then they are really connecting with each other and they connect with themselves. It really seems like they're living like their best version. And we read it all the time on the downside of technology. There's benefits, but here at camp, like what they can experience in nature and being outside and like really having really deep friendships. I feel like it takes like that pressure of like the outside social media, and it really allows them to like see what's really important in life. And I think that's one of the best things that parents get to have from camp, but campers and us as directors, it's amazing to see these kids really live their best life here.
And you'd think, there's the initial hesitation sometimes when they're going, all right, I'm giving this up. I spend a lot of time on this, until you get here. And it's kind of like anything, a little bit of homesickness and nervousness that is at the start of the day, or I'm nervous to give up a phone or Instagram, whatever you have. And the next thing you know, you're in the middle of activities and you don't think about it. You don't remember because you're so busy really experiencing things with your friends and the people around you that, all of a sudden that is the last thing on your mind, which is exactly what we're looking for.
What have we not touched upon from the standpoint of like the history too. I think that it's remarkable to have somebody with such notoriety having gone here too. Tell me a little bit about the history involving Grace Kelly too.
Yeah, well, camp's been open since 1908, and a lot of the traditions still continue. So we have a large canoe that holds
11 people are war canoes.
We still are out there in those war canoes, and they do a drill performance, and it's amazing to see that that's what their grandmother was doing out there, and we have footage of like black and white photos from 1940 that they were doing it, and we're still doing it. So for these kids to be part of something like that's historic, I feel like it's pretty powerful. And if you go to like the local library, you can see like Hensel has a whole book on just Camp Oneka from like the 20s, like old black and white photos, but that our kids are part of this history, and I feel like that's pretty amazing that they get to be part of that story.
Yeah.
And Grace Kelly, a story we tell, and at some point, I think not everyone knows who Grace Kelly is as we all get a little bit older.
Right.
But thankfully, there was a song released, I think, in the past 10 years called Grace Kelly, a pop song. That helped bring her name back out.
Yeah.
But really is something we share. When we're doing the 115th, there's going to be a museum in the boathouse with uniforms from over the decades, from when it was bloomers and wool to nowadays we're more casual with T-shirts and shorts. But kind of the uniform, we do it for dinner, and on Sundays we do big red, white events, our camp colors. And so a lot of that is carried on. We definitely talk about Grace Kelly because this very stage is where Grace Kelly danced. Before Grace Kelly was Grace Kelly, she was an 11, 12-year-old coming to camp to try new things, meet new people, experience camp for what it was. And now we get to tell the story that same little girl who was 12 here at camp went off to become a silver screen actress, and then went on to become a princess. Her daughters, at that time when they came back, were princesses. So there were the stories of the Secret Service agent that was embedded in the community or part of camp. But Princess Stephanie and Caroline lived in cabins, and of course, as you come back to visit, we have alumni telling the stories of, I was in a cabin with her, and you're not going to believe what happened in my cabin. It's some fun stories that you get to share, but really they're passed down. And one of the big reasons we do these events and invite the alumni back is to keep sharing those traditions and the history. And they're up in our little archive room, booklets and footage and things from as far back as really when camp started in the boathouse. I think starting in the 30s, camp pictures from every year, the full camp photo of everyone that was at camp that year, and really get to see the changes over the years. We go from the 30s upstairs to the 90s and then even to today. And we tell the kids that you will be immortalized on the boathouse walls when the photographer comes in, the photographer this year, a camp alum, who came back to take the pictures. And really, this network, this community, I think one of the things you worry about is, with that much history and tradition, is it, a private club. And I think one of the things we do best is we have new campers in every year. And we experienced that first year, that the alumni, they want to share this with everyone. And that's really why we're in camping, to share the magic of camp. We know how great it can be for kids and adults, that camp is a magical place. And they have been, this is why I think we fell in love with camp, because the feel here, that everyone was connected, and it was this very inclusive group. This is the place. Honestly, when we first came, thought this was the place for our daughter. When we first found this place and met the people here running it, we thought this would be an amazing place for any child, but our child to grow up. Right. And now we found ourselves here with our daughter here, and another one that will be a future camper, but inviting in all these other wonderful kids who come up and spend the summer with us.
And I think our alumni are so powerful because they know the power of camp, so they just want it to continue. So you feel that from the alumni, that they just don't want this place to not do what it's done for 115 years. So it's a pretty special place. And as you can see on the wall, like, all are needed by each one, and let the world be better because of you. Like, there's just so many great sayings that our campers take away, and they feel it. And it's a pretty special place.
So we'll wrap up the podcast here too, but obviously this can also work for the piece. What is like the camp culture too? It's so ingrained in what the Pocono Mountains is too. You're so close to Lake Wallenpaupack, and so multi-generationally people have been coming to this area forever too. So like the camp experience is so much a part of what this area is too. And that helps both employ people, but also like create those family memories for so many generations, right?
But one of, just a little story about our kitchen. This is Nancy's 36th summer. Wallenpaupack school for 35 or 6 summers or years, I believe, and still here. And alumni talk about her cornflake chicken. That is how great that's a little piece of the history. But yes, the community involvement is one of our favorite parts. So our whole kitchen crew, that it's not just coming in to make food. The campers know them, and they see them every day and are the ones handing them the desserts. And last night we had a little ceremony, our key log ceremony, where you talk about someone you rely on and care about. Multiple campers went up and threw them in for our kitchen staff. And the fact that that's a little inclusive, the whole community of camp knows each other. Again, it's not just the kids and the staff, it's everybody involved. So whether, utilizes our local friends and community, but you're right, the Poconos and where we are is one of the reasons camp is here. And why there are lots of other camps around us, because we have this gorgeous lake and the weather we do and the scenery, but that we get to utilize the Delaware River and the Delaware Water Gap. That we make sure to get out, so when they leave, it is our little camp community and bubble. But like you said, many of the kids grew up, maybe not on Fairview, but some did, but on Lake Wallenpaupack, and would vacation in the Poconos. And so when they think, where would I send my child? It is, that place was magic, whether it was at camp or not, to know you came up to this area. The Poconos just rings true in your head. This is where I would want my kid to have this really wholesome, fulfilling experience and enjoy the outdoors. So we're very thankful that we have such a gorgeous place and such a wonderful outdoor, network and trails and parks that we can't even use them all because there are so many things to choose from. But it is wonderful. The kids come up and say, I remember going here when I was a kid. We show up at Promised Land. Or again, I think I used to visit my grandparents up here however long ago. So there is
a lot of the memories at camp are because of the Poconos. And even our kids that get to go over to Gresham's or Dairy Twist and get their ice cream for the summer, and they can't leave before they go to the blueberry farm, the Coots Blueberry Farm, that I think has been open for over 50
generations as well.
A
lot of Coots Blueberry Farms
we
shirts around camp, because we can walk over. We go blueberry picking, so we usually take all the kids over, and they welcome us as well. And then we have some ice cream at the end.
And then our staff on their days off will go to Bethel Woods to go listen to some music or Wildflower. And so we have a lot of, we appreciate and we utilize a lot of the events in the Poconos as well.
I know a lot of our staff, every year we get lots of kids who grew up at camp and know and love it, and they kind of share that tradition and history and what they know and love. It's a big transition. They go from the world revolving around them as a camper to coming back to share it with somebody else. So that is a really neat experience for some of our counselors. Others come every year. We get counselors from overseas, and I think if you live in the area, you know that lots of places have folks that fly in from all over the world to do their summers with us, and it's really neat to think that they go home and talk about the Poconos. Who knows, what the Poconos are sometimes in, whether it's Europe or we have folks from South America, we have Australia, New Zealand, that they all go home knowing a little bit more about our little piece of heaven here in the Poconos. But we'd love to share it with the whole world, and hopefully we're making the whole world a better place by doing that.
I think so. Johnny and Rachel, thank you so much for joining us here on Pocono Mountains Podcast. Enjoy the rest of this summer, and the summer after that, and the summer after that.
Thanks for coming to see us.
We'll see
this
you
is amazing.
in another 20 years.
Yeah.
We'll do another.
We'll do the update. Learn all about Camp Oneka at oneka.com. That's ONEKA.com. Thanks for listening to Pocono Mountains Podcast. We'll have a new episode each week highlighting lots of the fun things you can experience while you're visiting the Poconos. Subscribe and leave a review or comment on whatever platform you listen. The best stories come from people you know.
Hi, Jen and Brianna. Hello there.
And at the Pocono Television Network, we know the Pocono Mountains.
Saw you at the festival. Great job.
Thanks.
And PTN spends each and every day updating you on everything happening across the region.
Hey, I shared your post.
Thanks very much.
So watch us on cable, streaming, and online.
We love watching PTN.
Us too.
Go to PoconoTelevision.com. PTN is everywhere you are.
We're back. Thanks for listening to Pocono Mountains Podcast. I'm Jim Hamill. As I mentioned before, there's a huge network of summer camps all throughout the Poconos, including International Sports Training Camp in Monroe County and Camp IHC in Wayne County. Here's a look back at a story from Pocono Mountains Magazine back in 2021. Enjoy. Hey everyone, it's Jim Hamill, and for this June episode of Pocono Mountains Magazine, it's summertime in the Poconos, and so that means summer camps. And so we're taking a little tour of some of the cooler camps in the area that feature all kinds of fun things for kids to do throughout the year. Today, we're at Camp IHC in northern Wayne County. Look at this beautiful spot here. We're also going to visit International Sports Training Camp to get the lowdown on how important these camps are for the Poconos economy. generations, the Pocono Mountains has been home to arguably the biggest number of summer camps in the country, with 36 in Wayne County alone, and plenty more throughout the rest of the Poconos. The camp industry has been a major part of the fabric of the region. Take Camp IHC north of Honesdale, for instance, around for 85 years, and looking forward to welcoming campers back for the first season since the pandemic put summer camps on pause.
It gave us that moment for pause and reflection, and I think that now that we're ready to open, we're doing it in a way that, is even better than it's ever been before.
Lauren Rutkowski and her husband Joel are ready to welcome kids back for the upcoming season with plenty of health safety protocols in place to ensure kids stay safe, and so does the community.
There's so many people that also rely on the camping industry to be vibrant, right? Not just the camp owners, but like you say, the local community relies on it too.
Local and state leaders recognize that economic impact as well, in the many millions of dollars, supporting jobs and a culture of helping raise well-rounded children.
When you think about us being the summer camp capital of the world, it's a story worth repeating, and it's one I've shared with many of my colleagues about the economic impact, but the impact to children and their families, the impact that goes multiple down the road to suppliers, the food service industry, our local farms, to the construction industry. It's just magnificent.
Same story at International Sports Training Camp in the Tannersville area, teaching life lessons through sports for 30 years now.
We're so excited for the kids to get back here this summer, to be outdoors, playing sports, and just getting back to being together. We have about 325 children per week, and we're a 1-week camp. So you check in on Sunday, and then you have the option of checking out either on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So it's just a week-long, fun time with friends and learning new skills.
This camp is also primed for the first season back in business following COVID-19, gearing up with staff including counselors, lifeguards, coaches, as well as dining services and maintenance.
Unfortunately, last year with COVID, we weren't able to operate, so we are so excited to be operating this year. Again, we're taking all the precautions. It's going to be safety first, but we're lucky enough that our venue is outdoors and that kids can run and play again.
Whether it's 1 week or 7, these summer camps are ready to welcome kids back for the season, and thankful to still be as important to the Poconos as ever.
What's important, for people to hear is that the camps are really grateful for the support of the local community. We couldn't be at the top of our game without the support of the local community. And that encompasses so many people. So we're grateful, we're thankful, and we look forward to a really vibrant future ahead.
Want to learn more? Head to PoconoMountains.com and search Summer Camps. Jim Hamill for the Pocono Television Network.
Summer camps, including an international sports training camp, Camp Oneka, and others in the Poconos. Traditions that live on today. We hope you enjoyed Pocono Mountains Podcast. Please remember to subscribe anywhere podcasts are available. Come visit us in the Pocono Mountains. Plan your trip today.